Well, thank you, everyone. Good morning. For us in Minnesota, we always have our breakfasts at 7 a.m., so this is fine. I am not kidding you, but Thanksgiving, the 2 days before Thanksgiving, I was at a breakfast with 1,500 Scandinavians in Minnesota. They are in their seats at 6:45. You are late if you're there at 5 to 7, so that's how we do business. Welcome my great friend Sheldon Whitehouse and thank him for his incredible leadership on this issue. I'm really excited about the work that's going on right now in the rehab area, and I'm really excited about Mr. Botticelli here, our new nominee to be our full-time director of the Office of National and Drug Control Policy. With his background, his personal experience, I just think it's going to be very exciting. And I think you also see from the work you've seen going on in the Judiciary Committee across the aisle on looking at drug sentences, federal drug sentences in a different way. We still have work to do on law enforcement on that front, and I think there's some headway we can make. And then secondly, in the state courts, I think my state was a little ahead of its time. I always hesitated. I may have told some of you this before about when I was running for Senate, if I should have pointed out that we had the lowest incarceration rate in the country in my county. But in fact, we had one of the lowest crime rates for a metropolitan area of that size. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that we use drug courts extensively, that we saw treatment as a solution, that we were the land not just of 10,000 lakes, but 10,000 treatment centers. So I think in the end, that has been very helpful to our state and to the way we're able to use our resources. And mostly it's been helpful for public safety and for the individuals involved. And that's why I'm so devoted to this effort, as well as the fact that I've told many of you before, my dad is an alcoholic at age 86. He hasn't been drinking now for about 15 years, but that's good. We're very excited. Maybe it's more like 19. It was about when my daughter was born, was his last DWI, and he's been really happy and happily married for the third time. The work that we've also done, which I think is key, of course, is to get our new bill introduced, the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act. And I said, with the spirit of work and bipartisan work in this area, I think we really have some promise to move ahead. And I'm not as down on what will happen during the next year as some people. I'm always an optimist. I have Hubert Humphrey's desk, and he was always the happy warrior. And I do take at their word my Republican colleagues who say that they want to work with us on many fronts, and I'm very hopeful that this is one of them. Last thing I wanted to mention is, you know, I've done a lot of work with the prescription drug issue, and Senator Cornyn and I sponsored the prescription drug take-back bill. We are now finally seeing the rules. That was a little difficult with the DEA, and I was starting to threaten to give a speech every day and do all kinds of crazy things. But we finally got the rules done, and so that's going to allow us to do more with drug take-back. As you know, so many families don't really want to know what to do with these drugs. They're told to flush them down the toilet. That seems weird with the water supply. My favorite, as someone who has a lot going on, they tell you to grind it in coffee grinds. Okay, I don't have coffee grinds. I get my coffee when I get here. And so those are not easy solutions for regular people. And we want to make it to the point where maybe people could just bring back their prescription drugs when they go to the drugstore. And this law would allow that. It doesn't mandate pharmacies to take back drugs. It does allow them to do it. We had a lot of work to do with the nursing homes. That's a huge source of drugs, as you can imagine, to make it easier for them. And we were able to get those rules done. And just to give you a sense of what we're talking about, in the last National Prescription Drug Take-Back Days at the end of September, over 300 tons of unused drugs were collected nationally, 300 tons. And as you know, it varies by state. We happen to have, our sheriff's been ahead at the time on this issue, and we kind of have permanent boxes in the libraries and places like that. But in rural counties and other places that haven't gotten ahead of the game on this, it's harder to do that, and maybe they'll just have one of these drug take-backs a few times a year. We want to change that to make it easier to bring back the drugs, because I think you all know 4 out of 5 heroin addicts started with prescription drugs. That's a pretty high number, and it shocks a lot of people, especially when I go talk about it out in the suburbs in the Twin Cities, but that's a fact. Heroin use and the kind of user has changed. A lot of times they start with prescription drugs, and then they can't get those prescription drugs, so they turn to heroin. So everything that we can do with prescription drugs is really important. I actually talked at Johns Hopkins this year with President Clinton, who's really devoted to this, former President Clinton, to this drug take back, and mostly to the prescription drug issue. You'll see provisions in our bill with Senator Ayotte and Portman, and led by Senator Whitehouse, that really focus on this idea of prescription drug monitoring. So that's something, after being out at Hazleton and talking to a lot of our experts, something I'm really interested in, of how we can do more on the prescription drug front. But you're going to have a great conference, I can tell. I'm off to meet with the Canadians, nothing more exciting than that. We have a lot of work to do with Canada right now, so I'm going to have to leave you, but I leave you in the able hands of Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Thank you, everyone.